Hello and thank you for stopping by. In today's video, a 2006 Saturn Vue wheel bearing replacement. I'm going to show you how I go about replacing this wheel bearing. I'm going to show you the tools that I use, and I'm also going to show you some tips along the way. So with that, let's get started. The tools I'll be using as follows: a jack stand, tie iron. I believe the hub nut is 34 millimeters, so I have a 34 and a 30, so I have a 35 and a 34. Definitely going to need a hammer. May or may not need this chisel. Pair of gloves. I brought out assorted wrenches. I believe I need 13 millimeter, but we'll see when we get in. A breaker bar. My socket set is in here. May or may not need pliers to disconnect the ABS wire. I'm going to use this Chicago Electric impact driver. I have pneumatic drivers, but you can see I'm working outside, and I would have to drag it outside or run along hose. This I don't have to have the compressor running, and it should do the job. You're going to need a big screwdriver or a pry bar to separate the brake pads. Going to need a wire brush, a little sandpaper, and the wheel bearing itself, along with some anti-seize. I'm going to put this on before I put the new bearing on, make the next replacement easier. If you don't have these sockets, and you know you're not going to use them on a regular basis, all you need is a credit card. Advanced Auto and AutoZone both will lend you the tools that you need. The socket set, in addition to the socket, I have this hub puller. I've used this once before on the rear wheel bearing. I didn't have a video of that, but this made the job a lot easier. You could do it without this. You could bang on that hub, turn it. There's various different ways you can do it. This makes it a lot easier. In addition to that, you have less chance of doing any damage. Even though you're pulling this out, and in a sense you're banging on it, you're pulling it straight out. When you're hitting that hub, you're hitting it all different directions, which you might have to give it a couple of whacks with this anyway. To come back to mention these three items. You're going to need a torque wrench to put this back together. You should have goggles or a face shield to protect your face and eyes. You are using gas, so you should have a fire extinguisher on hand. One of the items you don't want to have to use, but you want to have it if you need it. So to start, first thing I'm going to do is take this plastic cover off. Now these don't pop off. A lot of cars, they pop off. These actually screw off, and your lug nuts are underneath. I'm going to loosen the lug nuts. I'm going to put the jack in position. Not going to jack the car up. With the wheel on the ground, I'm going to loosen the nut that holds the bearing in place. It'll keep the wheel from spinning, and it'll make it a lot easier. Oh, one other important factor. You want to chuck the wheels. I have this one in the back chucked, the front one on the other side, and the other back wheel. Once I get this wheel off, I'll show you how that electric impact wrench works on it. All right, I have the tire off, and I have all the weight of the car on that jack stand, and I just have this jack just touching the frame of the car, just as an extra support. After taking the wheel off, next thing I did was loosen these two bolts. There's one up here, and there's one down here. I'm not sure if the camera's getting it. Loosen those up. Okay, you can pull them out. Make sure these pins, they slide. Okay. I just want to point this out. This is the bracket that holds the caliper on. There was a bolt on top and a bolt on the bottom. Look at this. Look how this bolt is marred up. And if you look at it, you can see it's a little shiny now from where my socket was on it. The reason I'm pointing it out, this car, I brought it in for an oil change one time. I usually do it myself. But on this one, I just got the car, I brought it in. I brought it into one of those $20 special jobs. Anyway, this is off topic, but when they did the oil change for the $20, I thought that was cheap. I can't buy the oil for $20, the oil in the filter. And they come out telling me that I need a plug for the drain. I said, why do I need a plug for the drain? He goes, it's stripped. I go, what's stripped? He goes, the head's stripped. So he brings the bolt out and shows me the bolt. I go, well, you guys must have used the wrong socket on it with an air tool. He goes, well, the car's got 92,000 miles on it. You know how many oil changes were done in 92,000 miles? The first time I ever saw an oil plug drain that was stripped the way this thing was stripped. The person who had the car before me always brought it into the shop. He never touched it. I didn't touch it. It was either the shop I just brought it into or the previous shop. Anyway, when you bring it to the shop, $20 for an oil change, I guess you get what you get. Another thing, this is the second time I had to change the bearings on this car. First time was the back bearings, now it's the front. And the person who had the car before me bought a lifetime warranty for the bearings. Well, unless you plan on keeping the car, don't buy the lifetime warranty, the most expensive ones you can get. Because when you sell the car, it's not a selling point. It doesn't extend to the next owner of the vehicle. If you're keeping the car and you don't want to do this yourself, yeah, it would pay. But if not, I want to buy the lifetime warranty. And it's one of those places, I think the name starts with 5 or something. But anyway, that said, get this off. The pads on here were good. I bought a set of brake pads thinking that we might need brakes. This wheel will just come off now. And here's where the fun begins. This should be replaced, the splash guard here. And what I have to do is disconnect the ABS wire. This is going to be disposed of, but this over here, you want to make sure you don't break this one. So there's this fitting has to be disconnected, and there should be, I believe, 3. The back one had 3 bolts. There's 1 here. Look at the rust on there. 2. Feel around. 3. Yep, there's only 3. That's good because the bearing I picked up only has a spot for 3 holes. It's going to be a little bit of a bear to get to. I don't think I could get the impact in there. I know I couldn't on the back one. I'm going to clean this up a little bit, hit it with a little penetrating fluid, let it sit a little, and then come back. I don't know if that's going to help it at all. The back one was a nightmare to get it off. This one looks like it might be just as bad. But anyway, I'll get it going and we'll see what we have. All right, yesterday ended with a no-go. I was able to loosen the bolt on the bottom on this end. The bolt on top and this one on the bottom, there's only 3 that hold this hub on. This one looked like it was starting to round off. I'm not sure if the camera could pick this up. I can't get under there to really see it well. I can't bend the way I used to. But anyway, this started rounding off and I didn't want to round it off altogether. It's hard to get a straight line into this with the axle on. And if I strip that, I'm gonna have to take this whole assembly off to get it off, and I really don't want to go that way. So I waited until today. I kept spraying it with a penetrating oil I had. When I ran out of that, I had the solution I was using. I kept soaking it last night. Today I went out and I got this PB Blaster. First time I'm using this. I don't know, I've read some good reports on it. And in addition to that, I spent another $180 over our favorite store, Harbor Freight. I bought these impact socket set. I have the long ones, but I don't have the short ones. I need a short 13 millimeter. And if I was going to buy this somewhere else, for about another $10, I got a whole set. So I bought this. I also bought this impact where it has a swivel. Not sure if I'm going to use these. And I bought a package, not just for this, but I could use this at other times. I only have 1 of these. This is 3 different sizes. A universal impact joint set. So I bought this, but this is for impact. So, and they have the lifetime warranty on it. Anything with Pittsburgh at Harbor Freight has a lifetime warranty. And I had an Irwin bolt extractor that I bought about 12 years ago. I used it once. I had it in my hands the other day. I don't know what I did with it. Can't find it. So I picked this one up from Harbor Freight. I don't know how well this works. I know Irving works well. This, I'm a little leery of it. I'm not going to use this unless I really have to, because I'm going to try to use these bolts again if they're not that rounded off on the back. I just can't see how bad it is. But I soaked this, and in addition to soaking it, I don't have a acetylene torch. I have a propane torch. I'm going to heat this as hot as I can get it. Then I'm going to hit this part, the hub itself right here, to see if I can shock this. I have the electric impact wrench that you saw yesterday. I also have a couple of pneumatic, but I don't know if I could get them in there. So the big purchase for today is this 3/8 impact wrench. It's 70 foot-pounds. I don't know if that's going to be enough. Earthquake, it's one of Harbor Freight's newer brands, and I forgot what this came out to, but altogether this was just under $180. So I'm going to get some oil in here. I'm going to have to fire up the compressor, run a hose out to the car, and get into some grubby clothes and get back under this. Once I get these bolts loosened up and out, I'll show you how I proceed from there. Just want to bring you up to date. The 7-piece impact swivel socket set I thought would be of help. They're going back. Just busted. And this was using it by hand. Fell apart. So this, I was going to do a tool review on some of these items. I just don't have the time for it, but just to let you know, maybe on something that's not as locked up as this was, but for this particular case, this was a no-go. That goes back. What else do we have? This set of bolt extractors. This is a keeper. I got all 3 bolts out, but to get them out, I was using propane for the other one back here, and that came out with relatively no problem. And I don't know if the camera's picking this up, but you can see where this is a little marred up. And I know I didn't do this one, okay? This went in that way from the big brand store that put these in. That was back here. That's this one. Look how marred up this one is. This I had to use heat. I used penetrating fluid. I used heat. That penetrating fluid I had did nothing at all for me. I soaked it for 2 days. Nothing happened. I heated it up with the propane. I used a tank of propane on it. Banged it around. I heated it up. I quelched it with a rig and water. Nothing worked on it. I went out, used the same torch, but I used MAP gas. This was with Taxanol 1250, 1275. I heated this bolt up. I tried getting it on the bolt and on this top piece right here for approximately 3 minutes. I quelched it with a wet rig. I heated it up for another 2 minutes, and after I heated it up for another 2 minutes, I put a candle. I don't have any of it left. You can see the wax down here on the cardboard. And I seen videos where they said that candle, the penetration really doesn't work. But I know I've used that. I used that method to take out brake calipers that were frozen. I also put wax in here. Hopefully it'll make this assembly come out a little easier. We'll see. But I did that twice with the wax. Right after I did that, I came back. Here's that bolt extractor still connected to the bolt. And this is a Harbor Freight brand. I wasn't sure if it was going to work. I wanted to make sure I heated it up as much as I can because I knew it was my last shot at this. Because looking at that with a mirror, there was nothing left of that bolt. I used the extractor. If you have the same situation, a small extension. I had to put this adapter on because I used the larger ratchet to get it out with a cheater bar. Now, the pneumatic tool I used, I'm not sure if the tool didn't have the oomph it needed because I used a Craftsman pneumatic gun I have, and that one I seldom use. I just use it every so often, and that one wouldn't get it out. It didn't have the force. I have problems with my compressor, so I had to go back to using it manual. I tried the electric one, the Harbor Freight electric. That didn't do it either. It made a lot of noise, but it didn't move the bolt out. So now I'm finally left with getting this hub off. I'm going to put on that slide bar on it. Once I have it on, I'll show you what it looks like, and I'm going to see if I can set this camera up to show you me using it. As soon as I have it set up, I'll be back. All right, I have this set up. When you set this up, it doesn't come with bolts to attach to your lugs. You have to use your lug nuts. Now, I had one before where I was able to turn the lug nuts around. The reason, if you could, you want to put this to the back, because this might mar up the tapered surface on the lug nut. Might have to get other lug nuts. So the whole idea on this now is that I'm going to slide it back and try to pound this off. And don't forget to take that axle nut off before you start this. One other thing, when I heated that bolt up before and this piece, I used this infrared thermometer, and it got up to 570 degrees. I don't know what temperature it has to go up to for it to work, but 570 is where I had it at, and that's what got that loose. I'm setting this camera up on a toolbox, hopefully far enough away from the action, and we'll see what happens now. Watch where you keep your fingers, and here we go. Oh, this wasn't on well. I'm gonna have to do it the other way. This is on there pretty tight. Whew. Not moving by much. That is on there. You can see that this barely opened up. I'm going to get a chisel and try to pry it in there and see if I get anywhere with that. I had to go about this a different way. I removed that puller, as you can see, and I have this other gear puller, harmonic balance puller, whatever you want to call this. The bolt for that fits into this. So what I started doing was tightening this up to push the axle back in, and it wasn't budging no matter what I did. It came back here. I don't know if the camera's going to pick this up if it's too dark. This part over here is the actual bearing. I put heat on it using the MAP gas, and I heated it up for about 3 minutes, and I continued to tighten this bolt. A little at a time, it started pushing the axle back in away from the gear. I used the candle method on it. I don't know if it helped or not, but I used the candle method on it. And I also got in here too, because what's happening, the axle's pushing back, but we're not getting the gear to move away from the knuckle. I tried using a chisel to separate it. You can see I destroyed this backing plate. I hit it with a hammer, nothing will move it. So my next step I'm going to tighten this up as much as I could again. Once I max out on this, I'm going to put that slide bar on it again so I can start pulling it out. And then I'm going to see if this will move at all. It should help quite a bit that the axle out roughly between 1/3 to 1/2. So that's less stress that's on this, holding this in. But I'm not sure what's holding it in, unless this thing just got so hot. Maybe it was in there too long, riding around with it too long, and it just seized itself to the knuckle itself over here. Anyway, I'm going to tighten this up, put the slide bar on, and before I use the slide bar, I'm going to heat it up right around here, around the edge, and I'm going to shock it with a wet rag and see if that gives me any relief. I was out here a good 25 minutes from the last clip. The way I got this off, this is a concrete chisel, but it was the thinnest one I had. I wedged it in between the knuckle and the bearing plate, and it started it a little bit. I kept hitting it with the slider and used this hammer when I could swing. This one's a little shorter where I didn't have enough reach. I used this chisel from an air chisel, but it was a little thicker than what I needed. That's why I used this concrete chisel, had a thinner edge. I also used this chisel. I kept working it back and forth. Did a little damage over here. I'm going to grind this down and clean it up. You can see how rusted it is in here. Let me get the light on here. You can see the rust in there. Getting it off the axle, the splines on the axle wasn't that hard, but it was all in here where it wouldn't come off. Anyway, I'll probably spend a good 20 minutes or so cleaning this all up, cleaning this down over here. This is marred up pretty bad, and I'm gonna have to order another backing plate for this. I hate to put it on and have to take it off when the new plate comes in. I have to see how long it'll take to get a plate, if I could get one locally. So this has to be cleaned out. I'm gonna go inside and see where I could pick one of these up, have a cup of coffee, spend about a half hour or so cleaning this up. Shouldn't take more than a half hour. And if I could get this plate locally, great. If not, I might just leave this another couple of days until the other one comes in. But this was a job. The back one wasn't as bad as this. Well, I'll give you a view of what's in there. That's pretty rusted. So when I put the new one on, I'm going to put that never seize in here and on the outside. So whoever has to do this again, or if I have to do it again, won't run into this problem. Look at this. This was something else. Now to order this plate and get that well-deserved cup of coffee. Now I have some bad news. Went inside to order these parts that I need, and what I need is a backing plate and the 3 bolts to put the hub back on, because those other bolts were pretty mangled up. I could probably use the ones I have, but if I have to take it off again, I don't want to have to deal with those stripped heads. The backing plate, Advance Auto told me they could have it for me by Monday or Tuesday at the latest, only a 2-day delay, but they don't sell the bolts. Now online they sell the hub, but they don't sell the bolts, not in stock. AutoZone doesn't have it, Advance Auto doesn't have it. I have a few private auto parts store in the area, but today is Sunday and they closed at 1 o'clock, so I missed it. When I ordered the parts, they said they would be here by Friday, possibly sooner. So this is going to be up on the jack stands until then. So for now, this is a wrap. If you want to see how to put this all back together, I will have a part 2 on the installation. Sorry about that. If I could have got the parts by tomorrow or even Tuesday, I would wait to do it. The reason I'm doing 2 parts, 1, it's kind of a long video, and 2, whenever I store videos for any length of time, somehow they get corrupted or I lose them, or whatever the case may be. So this is going to be it for now. This is just the removal. The installation again will be part 2. If you have any questions or any comments, post them down below If you enjoyed this video or found it useful, be sure to give it a like and hit that notification bell to get my videos as I upload them. And until next time, stay safe.